All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another game review video. Today we'll be reviewing this game between BEEFwithTILES and hmace. So BEEFwithTILES lost this game by 1 to a very strong opponent, and was hoping I could look at it. So we will take a look. A few things before we jump in. One is BEEFwithTILES has an awesome poem about Azul in their profile, so go read that. It's a fun read. And second, one of the members of the Azul Discord released a Chrome web extension for Azul that will show you the number of tiles remaining in the bag. So it doesn't work in the replay viewer, so we won't see it today, but I pulled up one of my turn-based games, and you can see up at the top here that it tells you how many tiles are left of each color. So in future gameplay videos, you won't see me using the notepad anymore, but instead just using the extension. And yeah, let's dive right in. I believe the creator of the extension goes by Code Ninja on Discord, but I'm actually not sure if that's what they go by on Board Game Arena. So I do want to give credit where credit's due. So yeah, shout out to Code Ninja in the Azul Discord. Okay, so hmace gets to go first here. We'll see what they do. Oh, look at that. It is actually showing now. Runs into the way of the replay feature a bit, but yeah, I guess we can just use this, and maybe actually once I extend the window, it won't run into the replay feature. Cool. Okay, so hmace starts with 3 red. That's pretty strong. And there's quite a number of choices here. The thing that hmace probably wants the most is the 2 white, and to get row 3 white. So you could like play 2 white either on row 3, maybe on row 4. Kind of like 2 white on row 4 here. I think it's somewhat futile to try to prevent row 5 red. Obviously you could do it, but if you watched one of the hmace game reviews I did recently, there's a situation very similar to this where hmace just lets his opponent have row 5 red. It doesn't turn out to be a super strong thing for your opponent to finish row 5 in the first round. So yeah, so I like the look of 2 white on row 4. You could play on row 3, but I don't know that you necessarily want to be reliant on getting 5 reds when your opponent has this big of a head start, because they'll be able to play the top 3 row reds and just really slow down your row 5. So I think I would avoid competing for the second column here. There's of course other plays, like you could take 2 yellow on row 3 or 2 blue on row 3. I don't think anything is like either of those are bad necessarily, but just for the sake of like slowing down hmace, I think I would take 2 white on row 4 here. This is also an okay option, just like taking the first player tile and seeing what hmace does and reacting to it. The reason I didn't want to do that is because I do think the 2 white is quite strong. We'll see if hmace takes it. Yep. But there's some interesting options here actually to continue. Like you could take 1 white on row 4 and then you make hmace choose between completing row 3 white or row 5 red. You could also kind of ignore hmace and just take 2 blue on row 3, and you'll get that, and then you'll be able to get either 2 yellow or 2 red most likely, and just build your own thing. So I think that's an option. I think I like the 1 white row 4 option, but and I should say 1 row 4 just because I think that's kind of the best place to play white. And then if hmace takes the other white, you can take the 2 red, or as we discussed earlier, you can just let him have it later. But okay, so let's see what Beef with Tiles does here. Again, nothing stands out to me as like nothing stands out as like more correct than another option. I think there's a lot of ways. So okay, so throwing out the white, I think like kind of the same concept as what I was suggesting, but leaving a little more flexibility. I think it would be better to just play it, and having the first player tile, gives you some, like maybe you're afraid to play 1 white on row 3 because you're like, oh, what if I get stuck with, this empty, this unfinished row? But with the first player tile, that's a little less risky. So, yeah, I think I would have played the white, and yeah. So again, like, I'm glad that hmace made this play because it highlights why throwing this white away is kind of difficult, because now you have to take the other white, and you almost are forced to throw it away again because like it doesn't make sense to now play one on row 4. Again, I think I would still like opt to play it on row 4, but it would have been better if we already had one there. So let's see what Beef with Tiles does. Yeah, so now not competing for that white, but hmace doesn't take it, which is interesting. I guess it makes sense to block this row 3 blue. Yeah, so again, here I would take the white on row 4 and then just take whichever of 2 black or 2 row 2 yellow is left for us. The other thing you could do here is just play row 2 black, so that hmace doesn't make progress on row 4. But note that you can't play row 5 black because then you give up your row 2. hmace will take the 2 yellows. So I don't love playing row 2 black, but I could see the reasoning behind it to leave hmace's row 4 empty. Maybe it's the best play, but I would just take the 1 white on row 4. And now the yellows. Yeah, so I mean this is like a pretty perfect illustration of why throwing away the first white was a mistake. I mean, imagine this position, but we have 2 more whites contributing to our column. And obviously things may have gone differently if we had played the white. Maybe hmace takes the last one instead of letting it sit, but maybe not. Maybe hmace still makes the same choice to take the reds over the white. Hard to say. Okay, so it's funny like not having to type the colors out anymore because I feel like I I'm not in the same pattern. I think this is a fairly strong draw for us. I think question right off the bat is whether to take this one white. And I do think I like taking it. Our other priorities are like row 2 blue. There's 2 of them, obviously finishing out row 3 blue, and collecting some black. But I think putting some pressure on hmace's row 3 is pretty strong. So the question is what to do with this one white. And I think I actually just like playing it on row 4, because then it really puts the onus on hmace to take these 3 whites. And after that, okay, so one way to like identify not necessarily good plays but good opportunities is when you're looking at what colors your opponent needs, you can look for like the shared factories, and the conflicts that you can create. So hmace wants yellows for row 2, because white is their other adjacent location, but they're pretty, you can prevent them from being able to play row 2 white, at least not without sacrificing row 3 white. So we see that there's a conflict with like whites on row 2 and row 3, and that yellow would alleviate that conflict. So if we were to take one white and hmace were then to take the 3 whites on row 3, we would have the opportunity to take from this factory, possibly the 1 blue, to finish our row 3 blue and leave 5 yellows, which would hurt hmace's row 2 adjacency. So the fact that the white and the yellows share factories in this case, and the fact that the white and the yellow are both kind of wanted for row 2 means that that's a situation that we can apply some pressure to. Not necessarily saying it's like bang on the right play, but something to notice when you're kind of planning out your round. So yeah, I think I'd start 1 white on row 4. The other approach here, of course, is to start 3 white on row 4. And the difference is hmace doesn't take any negatives, but you get a much better head start on your row 4, and you can still make the 5 yellows group. So that's probably better, actually. Let's not worry about making hmace take negatives. I think let's get 3 whites instead of 1. So maybe 3 whites row 4 is the better play. Sometimes I lean a little too much towards making my opponent take negatives, but I don't know that leaving this completely open is, or with just 1 tile, is as good as 3. Okay, so hopefully we'll see this play out. Yep, okay. So again, here, I think this is 1 blue on row 3 to completely destroy hmace's upper row adjacency. Obviously, they can play row 5 yellow, but that's not a huge deal. Okay. hmace finishes black. Okay, and so here, we know we're going to get stuck with the last pick most likely. But we should have some ways to prevent hmace's row 2. can we do it? So hmace can only play red or black on row 2. So we could, for example, take one red for our row 1, and then hmace would probably take one black for his... Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, actually, that's really good, right? So we take one red, and then what does hmace take from this factory to group the two blacks together? 2 blue? I mean, that's not very strong. The thing that we don't want to do is let both of these tiles hit the center with both of these tiles. We don't want hmace to have the option to pick between them. We want to take one of these away, force him to group the other ones, and then get rid of them somehow. So if we take one black for row 1, then hmace can take one black for their row 1, and then we've got the 2 reds for row 2. And hmace is stuck playing the yellows on row 5, and then we're stuck with the 4 blues, which isn't good. So we don't want that. But I think if we take one red, it gets pretty awkward for hmace, and we can play blues on row 2, all 4 of them potentially. Okay, either way, I like red row 1 from the center. Let's see what Beef with Tiles does. Okay, so securing this row 2, but I wonder if now we're going to see hmace just take 2 blue on row 1, create both pairs of 2 tiles for black and red, and then we're kind of stuck. We have to take the 2 reds, hmace takes the blacks, and then we get the 5 yellows, which isn't bad, but yeah, I just think there was probably a way to prevent hmace's row 2 by taking from the center, and we may have ended up with like red and row 2 black, and we would have given up on these blues. But I think that would be preferable to we would rather have both top rows with bad adjacency where hmace doesn't even get a second row than what I think is going to happen here, which I assume hmace takes the 2 blues on row 1. Yeah, and yep, reds, blacks, yellows. So it's not a bad outcome for us. Non-adjacent play, but possibly the ability to prevent the row 2 would have been better. Okay, so some color notables. There's only 5 yellows left. Probably not going to be much of a factor in our building, but could be in hmace's. Like if hmace doesn't get some yellows this round somehow, things could go sideways. I think the challenge here is that hmace's board is super flexible. So row 2 whites open, row 2 yellows open, and then all the bottom rows are open. So when your opponent has a board like this, you're not really looking for defensive plays. You're probably looking for opportunities to build yourself. So some of those are we probably want row 2 white, just because there's 9 reds left versus only 7 white, and these reds may not group the way we want them to for our row 2. whereas the white is readily available. Our top row is flexible, but worth noting that row 3 black could be available. That's also true of hmace. But I think the thing that we maybe want to try to do is try to get 2 of these yellows grouped up. Because hmace wants yellow on row 2 at least, and also on row 1. So if we can get a group of 4 for our row 3, obviously hmace could play row 3 or row 4 yellow, but that's not really what they want to be doing with yellow right now. So that's one thought. And then the other, I guess, elephant in the room is the blacks that we need on row 5. There's 11 left, which is a lot, but we probably don't want to exit this round without getting row 1 black at least, if not also the 2 blacks onto row 5. I think I'm still starting with row 2 white here just to secure that. But I don't dislike starting with row 5 black either. I think that's a perfectly viable option, which is what Beef with Tiles does. hmace grabs the black. And yeah, I would be happily taking the first player tile and the 2 whites for row 2 here. Okay. Okay, and again, so there's 2 things going on here. One is that we talked about the row, getting these yellows grouped up being potentially good for us. And the other is that we have the possibility, there's only 4 colors remaining, and so we can control the end of the round to some extent by being able to put 4 colors in the center. But there's no, like, we're not really going to dump negatives on hmace because their board's completely open. So we just want to play to protect ourselves. And we don't have a lot of risk. The biggest risk is that we end up with these 3 blues, which we can't really play. Obviously playing them on row 1 would be fine. But we don't really want them to get grouped up because hmace can play them as well. So unfortunately, there's not like a good solution here, because taking 1 blue gives hmace the opportunity to group all the whites up, which we don't really want. We would like to play to finish out row 4 white. We could play row 3 white, but I think only in the event that we're not going to get stuck with the yellows if we do, or the reds. So our board is much more delicate. So I think the play I actually like here is to take 2 blue on row 1, because that leaves some whites separated. It eliminates hmace's ability to play row 3 blue, and we should be able to get our white and either the row 3 reds or the row 3 yellows, which should be good for us. So yeah, I like row 2 blue, or 2 blue on row 1 here. Okay, so I think what we'll see is that hmace tries to group these blues up to take advantage of the fact that ideally we want row 1 blue, and also that they can play row 3 blue. So I wouldn't be surprised to see hmace go like 1 white on row 4 or something, just to get those blues, or maybe 2 yellow on row 4. Yeah. Okay, and then here, I think just taking the blues on row 1 is correct. And when hmace takes 2 yellows, we just get row 3 red, which is fine, and then hmace has to deal with these somewhat awkward 2 white tiles. So I'm just taking the 3 blues on row 1. Excellent. Okay, hmace makes a different play. Yeah, I think we might get stuck with these yellows, unfortunately, but you just take the reds here. See, I don't think you need to defend this. It's only worth 1 point. Maybe it'll add another point to this red later, but you can just let them have it. And this especially, now we're opening ourselves up to taking the 3 reds as negatives. So you can't just assume hmace is going to take the 3 red because he has it open. He'll probably just throw out the 1 white. Okay, plays it. I think hmace giving an extra -7 would have been better than playing this, but okay, so things get real interesting here. And there's only 2 black left, so the name of the game is basically get as much black as you can. And I think it's pretty clear we're going to start with row 4. Row 5 black, these 4 black on row 5. The nice thing about this is that we'll also have a chance to get the first player tile since hmace won't have any opportunity to do it. And of course there's yellows and there's reds, but with 2 black remaining, it would be okay if we don't get row 1 black, as long as we have like the first player tile, but you probably have to give up row 2 red to get black here, since there's 6 red and you can get that in the next round. Yeah, we'll start with... okay, so again, like, this is unnecessarily defensive. Sure, this is now worth probably 4 points, but the priorities here are much higher, especially because there's only 2 black remaining. The threat of hmace taking these 4 black means we basically have no chance of completing the column and the top 2 rows. But hmace takes red. Yeah, that's again a somewhat odd play, especially because hmace has a lot of flexibility. I know that we want red also, but it's almost in hmace's favor to let us take red, because then we're not going to complete black. So I presume now the blacks will come to row 5. Okay, hmace takes a row 1. Okay. There's not too much to be careful for here. And, hmace can score on row 3, but not really anywhere else. So I think it's fine to just take 2 black from the center on row 2 with the plan of playing either the single black or the other 2 blacks on row 1 on the next turn. Okay. Yeah, and we're going to take some negatives here, but I think you just play row 1 black and unfortunately deal with the consequences of the negatives. So I'm interested in the fact that hmace threw away this 1 red. I get it from taking the fewest number of negatives, but the 2 blue is not bad for us, actually. It's quite playable. So I think we take the 2 blue here. So I don't get that at all. There's no defense of whites that needs to happen. And I see that like we're happy with either blue or black, but we would take a group of 2 as negatives anyway, so why not get the most optimal one, which is definitely the blue, right? So black row 4 is good, but there's only 2 left, so we need to get both of them to complete it. It's a lower probability, And additionally, the odds of it being a 6-point play with row 3 white are low because hmace needs 2 white for row 2, and there's only 4 left. But there's 6 blue left. So we probably would have been able to get this row 4 blue with full vertical adjacency for 6 points. Yeah, so I thought hmace should do this before taking the red because the blue is actually quite strong for us. So now we have to play these blacks, and they're going to be kind of awkward. Okay, let's... Okay, so we're down by 5, last round, and let's see what we can do. I think our first play is somewhat forced. There's our scoring opportunities are rows 1, 2, and 3, and row 4, but like a 2-point play, I'm not going to count too heavily as a scoring opportunity. Same with like row 5 blue, like it's not going to be a big deal. So the main things we can score on are these top 3 rows. And similarly, hmace is also going to score most likely on their top 3 rows and maybe a 4th. So there's no way we can keep up if we don't take 2 white here. There's just if we don't take 2 white, hmace can still get 1 yellow and 1 blue, and so we are just losing by row count. He's going to have 3 rows of scoring to our 2. So this play's forced. It's just 2 white on row 1. Okay, hmace grabs a yellow, and interestingly enough, does it from... I guess he didn't want to take from... he didn't want to take from the center and incur the negative, but he's now given us the opportunity to group up blues. And in doing so, create the group of blacks for our extra 2 points. So to me, this is, you just take 2 red from this factory to eliminate this single blue and make it a group of 4 and a group of 2. Perfect. Fascinating. Okay, so, I mean, this has to be 2 red from the factory on row 3, right? I mean, we know that Beef with Tiles loses this game, so we can do some math, but I don't see how anything could be better than that. You just make hmace pay for scoring on row 3, and it's forced because there's only 3 colors left, so I guess this just doesn't work out. Okay, so the yellow comes through for 4 points. And yeah, we take the 2 reds, and I guess hmace is just gonna narrowly avoid a loss, despite going -11 in this round. So there were a couple spots where things could have gone differently, but I really think the 2 blue in the last round instead of this 2 black makes all the difference. And throwing away the white just wasn't... In that situation, you're going to take 2 negatives no matter what. So play the tiles that are best for you, because maintaining this flexibility doesn't matter. You want to just take the ones that are best for you. So real close game. I think generally Beef with Tiles played quite well. And I think if we have 2 blue here instead of 2 black, then I think the game probably ends differently. There would have been a little more conflict where we wouldn't have been wanting to group the blues, because we wanted them ourselves, but certainly the opportunity to score these 6 points would have been good. So, but yeah, overall a well-played game. I think mostly in line with my thinking. Oh, and the whites at the beginning, the whites in round 1. So I know taking a solo white to play on row 4 feels wrong, but that could have made the difference to finishing out this row 4 white earlier and having a little more freedom. So yeah, I think like you have to get comfortable with making those awkward plays, and kind of trusting that you'll be able to make it work. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this one.